Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 55 and welcome to a brand new film review. I know it's been a while since the last one, but believe me when I tell you I have had a lot of stuff to do. But now I'm back and I'm ready to go about and review one of my most highly anticipated films for this year, Godzilla 2014. Now, I am a massive fan of Godzilla, and I love what he stands for. I love his presence in pop culture, but I never really started to watch the original films until last year, where I got to see the original first film and Godzilla Raids Again. Really great films if you haven't seen them already, and I know all about the history of all the other Toho's Godzilla films. So when I heard that there was going to be a second adaptation on Godzilla, with updated, visuals and a good director in the shape of Gareth Edwards, I thought it was going to be cool, but I still had that thought in the back of my head that this film could end up being, was it another failed attempt? Because, sure, this is a different time, but, was it back in 1998, we thought we was going to get the Godzilla film of the century. And then we got Roland Emmerich's 1998 Godzilla film, and that film sucks. Ladies and gentlemen, I can say without question that Godzilla is definitely one of the best films of 2014 that you need to see. It takes the foundations of what makes Godzilla badass and definitely references the original source material and takes it and it reinvents it for Western audiences. Godzilla this time round is big. He's massive, he's scary, and besides the character himself, there's two other really bad man monsters in this film, and then there's actually a very good, cohesive story with characters you care about and a lot of drama as well. There's a lot of emotion in this film and the cast really bring it, but it's all about the nerdy elements that come with this film. This film takes several elements from the original 1954 Godzilla film in terms of the tone, the story and structure, and even references the original film in a lot of ways as well, and it just updates it in this beautiful, magical way. It's hard to talk about this film without geeking out, but ladies and gentlemen, it really is a really good, solid adaptation of The King of the Monsters, and this was what we needed back in 1998. This is a bad man film. Really cool. As for the cast, they were pretty good as well. You happen to have Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who just kills it as the main character. He's brave, really cool, has a very cool presence, and I just thought he was really badass in the movie. You also have Elizabeth Olsen. This happens to be my first Elizabeth Olsen film, and I've heard a lot of great things about her as an actress, and she really brought it to this film as well. Again, she was one of the characters who brought that sort of, human element to it. Her and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, even though they don't have that much screen time together, you can really believe their relationship, and they happen to be that sort of nice emotional center that this film needed. I also like Ken Watanabe in this film. He's always a badass in everything, but I liked his role as this really high-end scientist that knows the history of Godzilla, knows about all the stuff that went down in the 1950s, and he's reliving all these sort of nightmares as it happens again. And he was just really badass in the movie. And obviously my boy Bryan Cranston, he's a don in the film. Obviously Viva la Heisenberg, but yeah, he was great in this film. He brought, again, another one of those sort of really dramatic and emotional elements to this film. And while he wasn't in the film as much as I'd like, he left an impact that was, kind of hard to ignore. I also enjoyed Sally Hawkins in this film as well. I didn't know she was going to play as much of a part in this film as she did, but she was very smart, very cool, and I enjoyed her role. And lastly, David Streatham, at least I think that's how you say his name. He was also really cool in this film. I like seeing him, especially since I remember him from some of the old Bourne movies. But he was cool as this really high-end military guy. But now let's talk about the presentation of the film. Let's start with the visuals. And visually this film is insane. For a $160 million budget, this film looks really tidy. The CGI is clean. So very good. Everything is larger than life. The cinematography is gorgeous, and there is a beautiful atmosphere and a beautiful palette of colors of all this dark, moody grittiness that comes with the clouds, the broken down cities, and it looks beautiful. And then obviously it comes with the monsters as well. The CGI that was done on these two monsters in the film looks gorgeous. It's very high in detail, especially up close, and because it's done at night, it can be hard to see at times, but it's still really good. But Godzilla, oh my god, they did such a good job with him. He is this walking disaster of madness. wherever he or these monsters go, they tear everything up. He is a natural force of disaster, and his scale is beautiful. They got everything right about him, right down to the look of his body, to the tails, the dorsal fins. He was a badass. His introduction in this film will make you freak out. Ridiculous. And Godzilla and all these monsters have so many badass moments that if you're a nerd and know your Godzilla lore, then you'll be freaking out about this until, like, you know, the end of time. This was the most amazing adaptation of Godzilla that we've had since the Toho films. Visually, it's a beast. And then there's a soundtrack by Alexander Desplat. Now, I know of his work from several other different films, and I'm a fan of his, and his soundtrack here is really good. It's got a very, like, you know, atmospheric, emotional, gritty tone to it that really lends itself well to this film. It can be subtle, it can be heroic, very loud, or very, like, you know, quiet. It has different levels of awesomeness, and straight from the beginning of the film, I was engrossed in the score, and it was a really good score. I liked it. So are there any problems with Godzilla? Well, technically for the story, it does have a lot going on, and you really have to invest yourself in the story in order to, like, you know, get the payoffs going on at the latter half of the film. Some people may complain that the film takes a little while to get into. Plus, there's also the talk in early reviews of there not being that much Godzilla, and to be honest, he doesn't show up nearly as much as, say, all the kaiju action that went down in Pacific Rim. But I'd much rather have a shorter time with Godzilla and have it done right than have it, like, you know, too much Godzilla and, like, you know, have it done wrong. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, Godzilla, the new 2014 version, is Batman, and you need to go about and watch that film. This is what Pacific Rim would have been like if it had a much more layered storyline with characters that we actually cared about. While the kaiju action isn't as hardcore, I'd say, as, like, all the crazy neon lighting that came with, like, you know, was it Guillermo del Toro's film, this is a much different film. It has story, it has density, it has characters, it has heart. It has that emotional side that you really need for it to work with the humans, but it also has all the badassery of, like, you know, the monster fighting that you've come to expect from this series. Everything is so much more serious, darker and grittier and hardcore, and there's still so much for the fans to enjoy because it's just badass. Honestly, this is one of my favorite films of the year. I'd say it's probably right up there with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, or possibly bordering higher. I haven't had this much fun with a film in ages, and I'm going to go see it again in IMAX because this is just... You need to watch it, that's all I'm going to say. So if I had to give this film a rating out of 10, I'd probably say 9, just because I haven't had so much fun in the cinema in a while, and yeah, man, the King of the Monsters is back, yo, go watch that film. So ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of Godzilla? Did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed them? Or were they, you know, very low and, like, you know, the film just wasn't what you expected? Please be sure to leave your comments below, and also let me know how you feel that this film compares to the old Toho films as well. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. So until then, from me, the Hypersonic 55, is me signing out.